We're good. We're live.
All right, so I can talk about whatever you all would find helpful. I think I should show you what I've made already, and then we can go from there. All right, so what exists right now, I'm gonna share a screen.
So then what else do we want to add?
Oh, Caleb, you have to allow me to share.
Sure.
We've gotten to 6, which is definitely not. We probably need like 10.
How's that?
So the first one's a voiceover of the director, and the image is.
We've got a little bit of background noise from.
There were.
Yeah,
We could mute ourselves just to like until we have to speak. That's okay.
And yeah, feel free to unmute and jump in whenever. So what exists right now is these 4 services together that I have 4 tabs open for, are making this thing, which is kind of a half murals, half lost cat chimera. So it's basically exactly what you would see if you go to lostcatithaca.com. But a couple things are changed. This button says add a mural instead of add a cat. And I added one thing here, and it's a picture of a mural. And the URL doesn't say cats / it says murals /. But other than that, this is basically Lost Cat Ithaca, but deployed somewhere else. Like a blank slate, empty map, except for that one that I added as a test. And it is, all under separate accounts that I created, all for Ithaca Murals, and ready to be changed over, to have like the cat switched out for whatever other icon, and whatever else you need. I also have this mail link pointing to ithacamurals@gmail.com, this little envelope. But other than that, this exists.
And I'll share with the Cornell team that Joel was able to do this without us picking the name. So
Yes.
So we did not have to make that as a rush decision. That's something that after Joel is done today, we can discuss that, or we can do that we can do that in our next meeting.
Yeah, and along those lines, so right now there is an ithacamurals.com.
That's our website.
Yes. So it's lovely, it loads, it's great. And so, as you're thinking about kind of like the name and the domain name, or where you're going to have this, like how are people going to get to it? One thing to think about is that depending on this thing that's hosting ithacamurals.com, I don't know, I can figure out what it is in a second. Depending on how much flexibility they give you, you may be able to have like this map be, ithacamurals.com / something. Or, you may be able to have it like map.ithacamurals.com. I'm not really sure what technology this is. Is this like Wix or something? Or
It's
is it a
Weebly.
WordPress site? Weebly, okay, yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what Weebly, there you go, allows you to do. How much it lets you tinker under the scenes, but you may be able to hook up these two and not really have to think about it.
When we talked for the team, when we talked a few weeks ago, I was more hesitant about that. I was thinking we'd do a whole new, a website that was more of a Milstein and Ithaca Murals collaborative separate one. But I think things are going so well right now with Ithaca Murals and on the up and up, and we're cruising, that if it's nice just to put it into the Ithaca Murals website and not come up with a new name, that's absolutely fine. You know, or we can have a name that's within the, you know, Ithaca Murals website, or a separate one that's linked, anything. We can still do a separate website. I don't know, I'm very open.
Yeah, so the world, it seems like, will be your oyster. You know, whatever you all want to decide, because technically Weebly will allow you to like change your DNS, which is what would be needed if you want to point something like map.ithacamurals.com and have that go to this thing.
I'd almost,
And, you
I'm
know,
also curious about like game as being part of it, just to really be explicit that this is part of the fun.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
The interactive fun.
So yeah, you definitely, you know, if you get to that point, you want to go down that road, you know, definitely look at, you know, Weebly DNS and poke around there, and you'll end up learning about that. But yeah, right now it's kind of at just like a randomly generated URL. I called it map app, and render, the service I'm using, added that AWR just to make it, I guess, unique. So all right, yeah, there we are, and this is what we have. Ithaca Murals is the title of this, but it's at this weird URL. And you know, you may end up deciding that you don't really care to have a home page, or maybe you do, if you want to like explain how people are supposed to use it. But you know, it may just be that you have this map and that's it, and people can add stuff to the map. In any case,
I like the home page. I think that's nice.
Right. Okay. So the code lives on GitHub, which is where all the open source code in the world lives. There's an Ithaca Murals user on GitHub now. And by the way, I'm gonna hand over all the credentials, all the like the logins and stuff, and like change the emails for all these accounts to be, I guess, ithacamurals@gmail.com. Basically just give, you know, control over all that to Caleb, so he can like, you know, whatever, have it because it's all his accounts, I guess. But yeah, there's an Ithaca Murals user on GitHub now. They have one thing in here. It's a private repository, and you know, basically this is just where the code lives. So kind of figuring out how to like do stuff. There's like a little bootstrap experience. There's a nice README to walk you through stuff, but to get to this README, you need to be able to see this page. So that's probably going to look like some of you all, if you don't already, making accounts on github.com, and you know, either Caleb or I like giving you permissions to like join the project or contribute, whatever they call it, so that you can come here, get the code, and also see this, which is kind of an instruction manual for how to get started. All right, we can go over that in a bit. Just still want to introduce the pieces. The code is hanging out in GitHub, and but it just sits there. Like the code, you know, is just files with letters in it and spaces and numbers and periods and hyphens. The thing that actually hosts it and runs it is render.com, and there's, you know, another account tied to that, tied to Ithaca Murals. And it just has the application and a database. It's just where it stores the user input. Like, you know, if somebody is adding a mural, you know, you can just store the coordinates, you know, the description and all that stuff. So those are two tabs explained. The way, you know, web applications work, you store files somewhere different than you store text. So, you know, when we type, like, what is it, you know, demo, yada, 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 ipsum, lorem, all that. When you upload a picture, we'll do this guy. When you upload that, that goes somewhere different. Like it doesn't go in this database, which is mainly for text. I want to see that. Oh, it's a very small picture, I guess. But basically that is to say that images are stored in this other service called Backblaze. And it looks kind of like Dropbox, but it's not. It's just Dropbox kind of for programmers. But you can still click around in here, directories and files and all that stuff. And it's another account that I'll give you all the credentials for.
Great.
Yeah, it's a little slow to click through this way, but you can get a sense it has that file that I just uploaded and a thumbnail if it's a really big picture, like this other mural picture I have, and it makes a little thumbnail for it, stuff like that. 3 tabs down, the last one is Mapbox. So I know Caleb, you were talking about this like map and making it interesting looking, and I did find out you can do that with Mapbox. So Mapbox is also what Lost Cat Ithaca is using for like to provide all the map stuff, the panning, dragging, whatever. So it's another account that you'll have access to. And they have this studio thing. So for the artistic, the user interface and the designy minded among you, you can go into here and there's this styles thing called, right now it's called streets because that was like the template I used. And it'll probably be really slow right now because I'm sharing my screen and all sorts of stuff on this old computer. But you can change colors. You can decide what appears and what it doesn't. And you can put like custom things on the map if you whatever, have any reason to do that.
And
so what I did,
team, I'll say I've been through some of this already. You can see, altering, this is a city map that probably started out very similar as a gray tone and just fancying it up, making it pretty. Pop.
Yes. So and there are a couple kind of like design and graphics, opportunities to do things here. This is a big one, definitely. And whatever changes you make here, in the Mapbox Studio thing, when you save it, they're basically instantly live. Sometimes it takes a couple minutes just to like, trickle down, I guess, through the Mapbox servers. But yeah, that's an opportunity to play a lot. I turn off everything except the parks, just because I don't want people to know like, oh, there's a 7-Eleven on this corner when they're like trying to find a mural or something, that doesn't matter to them. Yeah, so that's Mapbox. And those, 4 accounts all together make this. So I'm gonna stop talking for a bit and ask what would you guys like to hear? We could go into like the technical, like actually we could make a change and like, change this cat to the Ithaca Murals logo and see that whole process, or anything else that you want to know.
How about Cornell team? You wanna jump in with a few questions? I've got some thoughts, but I would love to hear you all first.
Well, yeah, I mean what you just said, like how we can change the logo, I think would be great, and also how to edit the text on the cover page and how to change the colors on the cover page.
Definitely. I can jump into that. That'll be a long-winded one. If there are any like quick ones I can answer first, but I definitely want to do that.
How about a couple more? Maybe just see if we can get 4 questions just in the doc, and then Joel can answer them as he likes. How about a few more? Maybe a question from each one of you.
So I was wondering if we are supposed to, like, what we were, I guess, like, we could all discuss whether we should link this to the Ithaca Murals website or like keep it separate, because if we were to keep it separate, then we'd have to like think of whether we would have to put like a new picture or.
You guys need to learn how to close this door.
Yeah,
Do you guys, because I don't open it. Right, somebody closed the door, it wasn't me, I've been sitting down. Sorry, continue, sorry.
oh, sorry, I
was
like lost my train of thought, but I think that, I don't know, like we could all discuss whether it would be a good idea to have this as a separate thing or a separate thing and then link it to the website, or like have it as its own page in the Ithaca Murals website itself. So I think that before we change the picture and decide like what to change it to, we could make that decision.
That sounds good. And how about other folks? What are each of your top questions?
Really, I didn't have any questions outside of the first three. Just how to edit the website really was kind of all I was thinking about. I don't know if I have anything really specific besides that.
Like my mom, they literally got me $50 for Chipotle.
All right. Well, I'm happy to jump
And one
in.
more, did you have something? Paula Marie?
I was gonna say that like I think everything sounds good. It's just like I'm just more curious to see like how making the website more suited to like our needs aesthetically would go, and that kind of like just goes into like you know, editing the text and the colors and all that.
And
I got a lot of
Joel, I'll say
artistic
mine.
minds here.
Mine would be, and I'm thinking instead of add a mural, because we want to open this up to different kinds of street art, whether it's, yeah, if it's because, right, it's street art. I'm curious, like, what if we wanted 3 different logos or something, that one is for graffiti, one is for mural, and one is for like a sticker, you know, like any other kind of miscellaneous. Or that's one I have. I'm also thinking about if on the home page maybe there's a link to 2 different sites. One is to this kind of, you know, crowdsourcing of photographs, and then the other one is also that the QR code system is also housed in this too. Or maybe that's a separate thing. Maybe the QR code goes directly into Weebly and we make, you know, a page for each artist. I don't know. Or maybe, right, do we set up a chart in Airtable or whatever format
You just put in like
the previous class was working on, and have it kind of pop? I don't know. Those are an open-ended.
Caleb, we had
It's like universal, like.
one potential worry that we were just talking about is if we were to put different types of labels for like different types of art, I guess one worry would be people that don't really know the difference between those two. What happens if someone mislabels a certain work, and how would we keep track of that?
And so that's I like it. I like what you're saying, and maybe it's nice to not distinguish, maybe because we don't want like, right, maybe it's nice to combine it all into street art. Yeah. You've convinced me already.
So yeah, I've got something that'll help with that. Okay, yeah. So you reminded me of something I didn't show you.
And I'm thinking, Joel, we're gonna get a lot of hits on this, that there's gonna be street art all over this place. And maybe that's okay, because people can just keep zooming, right? You can just keep you can zoom right in over here and you can zoom over there. But would that ever be an issue where there's so many? It's like if 10 people all take pictures of this same mural, which I think is fine. It's a nice thing for multiple people to to show there.
Yeah, that's something I definitely want to talk about also. Yeah, as far as just like crowding, leaving out the fact, the possibility of like duplication, but just like general crowding, Lost Cat Ithaca, they get pretty darn crowded. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 10 on one block.
You're right,
And I don't think it gets too onerous there.
Agreed.
But if really like people are submitting all the lost cats and all the murals and all the car hats and everything, it could get a little crowded. And that is yeah, something I actually talked about in a job interview when I showed them this, when they want an example of something I made. And it's a problem, to solve when you start having like, thousands of data points.
And if we start getting a theme, like this is something we can develop over time, where if we get so many lost cats, maybe we end up using an icon like what you have for the lost cat ones. And, I guess, I guess that's a way that it can grow later.
Yeah, definitely.
To have different icons.
Yes. So yeah, basically as far as like grouping, I'm going to say this is like unsolved problem, and it's a good problem to have. And or no, actually map too crowded is an unsolved problem and a good problem to have, because it means lots of people are using the site. But performance wise, it shouldn't bog down for quite a while, I guess. But yeah, just to show you that's kind of the density we have in Lost Cat Ithaca. As far as these are kind of together. So more than one person.
I'll also ask
Yep.
a question, is just a topic more, is what is the Cornell team gonna, does it feel overwhelming? Is it underwhelming? Is it, where does this land in terms of learning and things, is like, oh, you don't want to learn anything about this whole area of coding, or maybe you're into it and you're like, okay, yep, I'm going to learn this kind of script, and that kind of script is that's just being real, that I don't totally understand the capabilities of what we can do in the next month and a half or 2 months.
I feel like the changes that Joel has shown us, like just like changing the pictures and stuff like that, I think that, I mean, it's like too early to say, but I think it may be within our scope. But something that we should definitely consider doing is like incorporating this into the Ithaca Murals website, just because it could be like another aspect of like, I guess, logging all the murals, which like you already have the data of all the murals. So that way we wouldn't have to add the data for each murals into this map. It could just be another aspect of like showing where all the murals are. And then people could like add more in addition to the street art. So it could be like another facet of the Ithaca Murals experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Honestly, you could just be like, I don't know, I guess I'm just really getting like, oh my god.
Should I jump back into it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, as basically like the only moderator of Lost Cat, I've had to deal with these two a little bit. The way I've been dealing with duplication, or like multiple people giving pictures of the same Lost Cat, is I just, if they're like really special images, I'll make a little montage out of them, or like a collage, like one picture that is like half and half. I actually just do that on my phone. It has like a little feature to do that. Or if something is like really a duplicate and it's not really like adding anything, then I'll just delete one. And as far as like similar way, if someone submits a picture and it's, turned 90 degrees and it needs to be adjusted, I do that as well through this administration interface. And I use a dark mode, so I guess it's all like black background. It'll probably look different for you. The public don't have usernames and logins, but you can make administrative users that can come in here and do this. And this is kind of like built in with Django. That's why this exists. Otherwise, I probably would not have made it. But you know, if you see a mural that, you know, is rotated sideways, you can come in here and you know, let's pretend, I don't know, that you know this is not a mural. This is just a guy. Okay, well, you can just delete it wholesale with a red button. It'll ask, are you sure? Yes, boom, it's gone. So you can take care of spam that way. I've never had any spam with Lost Cat. It's been on the public internet for over a year. But you can do that. If you need to like rotate the image, you can, you know, download the image, just rotate it in Paint or whatever, and re-upload it. You just hit browse, you know, choose that image file and save, and it'll, you know, give you your new version. So that's kind of like basic, one at a time content moderation in here.
You also have room for a title, right? Is it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, yep,
you
there
know,
it is.
This is my title.
Because the public has room to make a one-liner or something. I like that.
Yeah. And so yeah, now it says this is my title up there. That covers, I guess, this thing. So this is a very solved problem. You go to /administration. As far as deduplication and grouping, that's a super unsolved problem and and would definitely require code changes.
But in our sense, I don't mind if there's multiples, if different people are taking selfies in front of murals, and you know, it's the mural in different seasons. I think that's a great thing.
So it is great. It presents an issue with the way that it'll be presented, because you'll get, you know, maybe like 20 cats right on top of each other. And I mean, you know, you'll click and you'll get whichever one is on top.
Okay.
You know, I'll try to mimic that by just scrolling out and,
Yeah.
you know, I can hit the same one multiple times, but if I don't move. But, you know, they definitely are on top of each other, and it's a little bit of a mess. But, you know, it wasn't an issue for my use case. But,
And can you keep zooming in? Is that a way to not have to, like, if
yeah,
like even more so, would you be able to? And then
well, let's see. So I'm just seeing if I can like hack this up, because you put like limits on how far someone can zoom in. And I think I can, okay, set. There's a minimum zoom. I guess I have not set a maximum zoom. There's a bounds, so you can't go look at Russia or anything. And I think this is the initial zoom, you know, initial XY zoom. As far as like yeah, I guess I don't have a maximum. So this might be as zoomed in as you can get with Mapbox. That might be, I don't know, something to look at.
Yeah.
But this is as far as I can go in right now on Lost Cat. And yeah, you can still see like, you know, the little shapes of buildings and things, you know.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this unsolved problem requires code changes. I don't know. You have to think about these two together and what you'll do about them.
Could I say something for a second?
Yes.
Maybe the problem that Caleb had could be remedied by like maybe if like somebody uploaded a picture that's like within a certain like distance radius of like another picture, then could like I don't know like how this could be implemented, but they could like have a scrolling thing where like you could alternate between these pictures, because this seems like would be a pretty big problem.
Okay, that's what it sounds.
Well, I
Yeah,
like that. And then people, and then that adds like an added fun where if you're in front of one mural, then you'll be able to see multiple people of the same mural.
Do you mean like, if it's like these three that are close together, automatically make those into one, and when you like zoom to it, then you get to see, all the pictures taken there, something like that?
Yeah, I guess, but we don't know how to implement that. So if that's not like something that you could do at this point, then we don't need to worry about it. But I'm just like, since Caleb raised the issue, I just wanted to propose an idea.
Yeah, I think if you do end up wanting to like touch Python, change the Python code, that is a relatively approachable thing to do. Yeah, and I think there's a pretty elegant way to do it without a huge code change. But yeah, that's my thought on that so far.
I like it.
Yeah. So we can revisit that. But the other ones are changing like text, colors, images. This is a good one also. Okay. I'm gonna pull this out because it's a little different. Okay, multiple types of things. It's something Lost Cat doesn't do. So I'm going to call it unsolved. It will require code changes, but a lot of it will just be copy pasting. You could do it by like copy pasting all the mural stuff into like something else and calling it not a mural, but a whatever, a sticker, like Caleb said, as an example. Or it could be that when you're adding something, that there's like some radio buttons here, which is like the term for like we have like buttons, they're like mutually exclusive. Like you could only choose one, and it could be like, is it a mural, is it a whatever, a sticker, and they tell you there. But yeah, I think that's totally doable. That will require a code change though. So
I like that kind of that idea of having a little multiple choice, a click, an easy, thing for them to click. That kind of gives a category so that people could also see that, maybe in the gallery, under gallery, it has different areas.
Yeah, that then you're definitely getting into like more Python. But I want to push towards this stuff, which will be, not requiring, I guess like hardcore programming, not that any of this I would call hardcore, but like things that'll make a big visual impact, which seems to be important to everyone on this call, and for good reason. So let's get to that.
That sounds great.
So
All of these other questions could be like the 3-year plan, or the 3-month plan, or the 6-month plan, or the 2-year
Yes.
plan. As we grow.
So I will say, perhaps unfortunately for you all, Lost Cat does not use like a CMS or a some like program that you use to make a program like WordPress or Weebly or anything. And you do make changes by changing code files. And we can look at that. And it's more approachable than it sounds, I think. If you like want to change, especially text, is easy to do. If you want to like change this, you just hunt for where this sequence of words appears in the project, and you change it to whatever you want it to say, basically. So text is a good place to start. The experience, though, of changing text is very similar to that of changing the code, the CSS, or anything else, because you do have to kind of get into GitHub and get the code on your machine, make changes, and push it back up again. which we can walk through. And I made this README. It's the first thing you see when you go to the GitHub repository that tells you how to do it. And like things you'll need are a computer with a terminal, which is every computer, but you just need to know how to access it. On your Mac, I think it's called iTerm2 or whatever. On Windows, you have like the CMD, the command prompts. You also have other things that'll work. But you need a command line kind of thing, like this, just a window accepting commands. And then you have to install some stuff. So at the very least you have to install is Git. GitHub, Git, you kind of, you can see the resemblance. And you use Git you make a free account. You follow some documentation they have. They kind of hold your hand and tell you like step by step what to do. And then you run this command somewhere on your computer, and you will have all these files and directories sitting wherever you ran that command in your computer. Basically like the Dropbox, download or whatever, or, the Google Drive, download a big zip file of all it, but it's for code. So you get the code and ignore everything else. We're just changing text. When you have that code, you'll have, it'll end up in a directory called Ithaca Murals, and it'll have all those same things that were in GitHub, and you have a bunch of files. And let's say we do want to change this. All right, copy that. I'm just going to do you can use whatever program you want. You can use Microsoft Word. Don't, but you can. It's really just files with text in it. Just call me one hit. I'm just going to follow that here and change it to there. I'll just say the Ithaca Murals map is a fun
Interactive, interactive crowdsourcing website. What do you think? What do you think, everybody?
And yeah, this doesn't have to be permanent at all. It's really just a demonstration. Crowdsourced. Street art, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We just made a change. I hit Control S. I saved it. And then like the happy path, easiest workflow is, okay, I can probably remove this one. I'm just down here under deploying. We use Git to push code to GitHub. Git can get complicated. The simplest case looks like git add dot. Okay. Git commit a brief message describing your changes. Demonstrate changing home page text to Cornelians. Okay. And then git push. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's weird. I'll have to get that working. But ideally, you run git push, and that's basically it. Your code ends up going to GitHub. Render automatically sees that and deploys your changes, and then just refresh the site, and you'll see, the updated text. And it may be worthwhile, since it's like, it would be quite helpful to see that I might just like fix that issue live. I don't know what I have going on that made that not work. In fact, I bet I know SSH add. All right, well, okay. Yeah, so it may be worth like me to like get that fixed. Hopefully just take a couple of minutes and then like come back and continue. But that would be the workflow for changing text. For changing, maybe this is another good place to like introduce the rest of it. When you're changing something more complicated than text, you might want to see that everything is working correctly on your machine before you push it up and make it so the world can see it. Although I will say it's harder than it sounds to get strangers to look at something you have on the internet when it's not like on Instagram or some network. So like realistically, you know, you can push embarrassing mistakes up here and it'll be fine and no one's going to know. So just be brave. But if you do really want to work locally before you push it up, there's little steps for that. And you'll eventually get to the point where you can run a command and you'll get a little copy of the website running on your machine. Because I need to actually follow the instructions in here. Let me do Docker compose upd. But basically there is a way to make changes and you probably want to do that locally before you push them up. So I can actually show you what that looks like since I'm apparently having an issue pushing changes up to Git. But yeah, if you follow this little tutorial, it'll show you how to do this, which we'll do later. What I'm doing right now is getting a local database running, which will kind of like replace this database over here. But locally, running on your machine. And then I'm running this section, which is Django is like the logic behind it. It's like a Python application. So Python manage.py run server. And it'll think for a bit and it'll say, okay, hey, here's a link. And this is a link none of you can click on. It's just running on my machine and I'm the only one that can see it. And all right, sweet. It's not a demo if it works properly, huh? Right, okay, all right. It's because I'm trying to jump ahead of myself and I really need to run all of these things. I guess the moral of the story is if you run through all these commands in order on the README, you will have success. And if you don't, things won't work as well. So hopefully. Excellent. Okay. So here it's the local copy of the website is running that text we put in. And this is helpful because you see like now, oh, that's a wall of text. I probably don't want it to be that long right there. Or I want like one bigger punchy title and then put more text down here in this kind of like subtitle. So it can be really helpful from the design standpoint to see something in front of you. And that's an opportunity to get very involved. It takes effort to turn a design into code and really implement it. It's much easier to play around with that design in Photoshop or Figma or whatever software you like, and make your mistakes there as far as like figuring out what looks good. So yeah, definitely there's a lot to do there. If you want, before you get into code. I often just jump right into code because that's what I'm more familiar with. But yeah, that's changing text. And I showed you a failure to run git push. But hopefully we'll get that working later. We don't want to just change text. We want to change styles, colors, things like that. So what's like an Ithaca mural kind of color that we can slap on this? Okay, like that yellowish, kind of bluish, like this greenish. Maybe we can throw this green around. I'm gonna
How about that? How
grab-
about a light yellow, like on the map? There's something I like about that warm
this, okay.
eggshell. Unless somebody else has something you all want. What would you want as the fun background color?
So what
I
do
think
you
they
mean as far, what do you mean as far as map? Like, do you mean, because this is the map on ithacamurals.com.
Yeah, on
talking about?
on the cover, I was thinking that cover color. The light, kind of like that light yellow. In the
You
lower
mean
left.
like this?
See
left.
your
Oh.
guide. Yeah, up a little bit.
Sorry, there's lag. What do
Up,
you
up just a little bit. Yeah.
oh, your guide?
So right next to your guide, it's because murals is kind of like that light yellow.
Sure.
It's on the cover of my this creaminess.
There you go. I snagged that with this little eyedropper tool.
And Sid, were you referring to something else? Did you say something else? No.
So this, you might notice this is an HTML file, like the three kind of the trinity of web development: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. HTML is like basic structure and text. You want to change styles, you need to go to CSS. Let's see, do we want to change? We'll change all the pages and give them a bit of a background. I'm gonna hunt around. Okay, I'll demonstrate this method of finding stuff, which is kind of spray and pray. If you know the kind of file extension you're looking for, CSS, like, well, I see CSS there. Styles.css is pretty good. If you poke around other places, you won't really see anything that like is named something like styles or colors or anything like that. That can be a good place to find the thing to change. But in this case, let's change the home page in particular. And this is probably not going to end up looking great, but we'll just do background color. And I'm relying, why I said don't use Microsoft Word. Because Microsoft Word can't autocomplete for you like that, I just typed BA, and most of that kind of happened magically. If you're just typing color, like I really like, I know I want to change a color something, and it gives you all these options with the word color in it, and it tells you what each one is. This one changes the color of the text. Okay, that's not what I want. And there's all these other things, and you would eventually get to background color, which might like ring a bell if you want to change the color of the background. And there are many ways to specify a color. There are these special names. You can specify a hex code. You can specify like RGB, red, green, blue values, a whole world. But there's a little, we're telling something to be yellow. let's see what it is. Going back to this local copy, hitting the alt F5 button. Everything is now a little yellower. And so, this is where design comes in. Like, do you like that? Do you want this middle thing that has the shadow around it to look more like a page of paper that's wider and kind of like elevated? And so, then you iterate onto the design and you're like, okay, I want to make that a different color. And you would end up finding where to put that CSS. This is CSS, by the way.
I trust you all, Cornell team. I'm very open. If you want to go wild, if this is exciting for you, just like run with it and play.
Yes, I think there'll be lots of opportunities to play and design. Certainly. So that's something like changing color. But the world is your oyster, and like if you need to know anything about CSS, type MDN in your favorite search bar and whatever you're interested in, and it will tell you if this thing you are hoping exists actually is a thing in CSS and what kind of things you could put after it. And they're like live examples. And then you like syntax and links to other similar things and yada, 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 etc. So very good resource. And that really is like, nobody knows everything in CSS. You kind of just have to like have an idea of what you want to do. Like, I want to change a background color. I imagine maybe there's something I can change called background color. I'm going to do a web search and find it. Now, background color is something that like you can learn and like have memorized, but that is kind of the general workflow. I see you guys talking. Do we have a hard stop at 4 p.m.? And do you need me to get to any particular things before then?
Yeah, we do have to stop at 4 p.m. I think that so all of the information like is in the GitHub like about page, correct?
Yes, like the kind of getting going, and I assume there will be stumbling blocks, and you're welcome to email me. You should also, like, at least one of you should get a GitHub account and like send me, I guess, your username, and I can add you to it so you can see this. Yeah, so that's like, if we had to go like right now, then like it would not be the worst thing in the world to leave just saying like, okay, we'll get GitHub usernames, I'll add you to the project, and you can try to run through this, which really takes you through like pretty much everything.
Okay, yeah, I already have an account and I've been looking at, or like last time you showed us, I looked at the project, so I can send you my username.
Yes.
Do you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, we'll definitely email you if we have any questions. Thank you so much for explaining everything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I will super briefly say, how to change images, kind of the same thing. Hunt around for something called images. You'll eventually find it in here. And, there's the cat logo. Okay, it's an SVG. Bad example. Here's the little cat on the map. And, you just change it instead of a cat, make it a whatever you want, and it'll kind of just work magically. So yeah. And we kind of covered styling. It's a lot more than colors there, but it's all in the CSS. Links belong in the HTML. You would do a search for like MDN link, HTML, something like that. And QR codes, I think, will probably end up being images, which you can like, put beside these other images, and you can include an HTML kind of in like a copy paste way, similar to the other images. And that's kind of like the quick rundown on how you would make these kind of changes.
Awesome.
So yeah, I hope, you know, yeah, I think I'm excited for you guys to dig in to make changes. There are lots of different roles to play. You know, somebody will have to touch code to like, you know, really make these changes, but there's a lot of like design and like, you know, making images, Photoshop, stuff like that, that's needed. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I'll stay on with you, Joel, a little bit more and figure out money for you and other things.
Sure. And yes, one last thing, the Canelians, I mentor developers. When there's a new developer at the company where I work, I, you know, kind of I have to like Sherpa them through understanding the code base and getting their feet wet and making their first code changes. I'm happy to help you all in a similar way. You can email me. You have it from like a previous thread with Caleb. And yeah, don't be shy.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have to go now, but thank you, both of you.
Thank you, Joel.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. See ya.
Good. I'm gonna stop recording and thanks so much.